But that was the first one that really was difficult, and it was because they took too big a bite all at once. When the TR7 came along, whoever was talking to me about unions, that was built initially at Liverpool by a bunch of longshoremen who didn't know anything about building cars and didn't want to know. And it was simply not well put together. So they broke down all over the place. I remember where our office was in Leonia, we had a stream across the road, and it would flood if there was serious rain. One year we had 3 days of rain, and eventually the creek rose and came across the road and actually got into the building. We had about 3 inches of water in the building. And we were all stuck. You know, we'd waited too long. We had to get home. People with American cars, they were high enough to get out. I got in my TR6 and got around the parking lot and then into the street, which was about 4 inches lower than the parking lot. And I'm still going. I'm in first, and at about, I don't know how many revs, and the exhaust is bubbling up, and I'm moving, and I hear, bam! What's that? Keep going, another, bam! It's coming from the front. I realized the fan was spinning in the water and the blades were breaking off the fan. So I pulled back into the parking lot, and I had another car. I had a press car TR7, electric fans, so forth and so on. Wouldn't have that problem. But by golly, I got into the road, and in the TR6, it was dry, no water coming in. I hadn't gone 50 yards in the TR7 and I was wet up to my ankles. But I got home, you know. So the reliability thing, the more complicated the cars got, the more warranty problems there were, either through bad design or investing in cheap components or bad assembly. And the same way, it wasn't just Triumph, Jaguar the same way. You know, the more complex a Jaguar got for years, the more warranty problem. If anybody here owns an XJ40 and has read my Jaguar book, you'll see that in there I say just 1988-89 XJ6, do not buy it, because there are things on there you can't fix. And it was, you know, there was a period in there when the reliability went way down. By the time we got to the Canley built and Solihull built TR7s, they weren't bad. The TR8s are good. Who else?
Mike?
Yeah.
In 1969, I bought my first new car, 69 TR6. Paid probably too much because it was a new model. How much money did Triumph actually make on that car? Do you have any idea? After all said and done, I probably paid close to retail, $3,500.
Yeah, I was going to say the retail is probably either $35.95 or $36.95,
Yeah.
of which the dealer made, don't hold me to this, but about 18%. It was a pretty good amount in those days. The company, you know, there's a lot of markups, you know, because they sold the factory sold the car to Standard Triumph International that sold it to Standard Triumph Motor Company, Inc. So the company got 2 markups before it got to us. So our markup on a TR6 was $250, something like that. That's very, very rough math. But that would have been about right. And less on a Spitfire, obviously.
Why did they have ashtrays but no lighters? Well, you should have, you know, want some throw-ups. Match out the back when your gas cap's behind your head.
Well, the electrical system couldn't run it.
British cars didn't have lighters. They used matches. And seriously, I mean, we had an accessory lighter you could buy, you know, but there was no lighter. There was no lighter in the TR3. There's one in the TR6, I think.
That was a dealer option, right? Was a dealer option in a TR6 for a lighter?
No, I don't think so. I'm just trying to remember. Who's got a TR6? You got a lighter? No. No lighter. Okay, I'm wrong. Sorry.
TR7.
TR7's got one. Yeah.
Put one in my.
No, they. You know, we didn't even have ashtrays. You used to have a beanbag ashtray that you put on the tunnel because everybody smoked. You know, everybody smoked. And then 1 year TR3 had an ashtray. We finally made enough noise that it had an ashtray, and it's tucked in, if you've seen one, it's tucked in the passenger's footwell right over on the left side next to the center of the dashboard. The perfect place where you hit it with your left kneecap when you get in, and it instantly breaks the plastic front off the ashtray. It was very well designed.
A lighter takes about 5 amps.
Yeah.
And on a TR4, it's only a 22 amp generator, so you know it's a big portion of the load.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. I had somebody over there.
I was wondering, if using secretaries in the advertising, how'd you get Alan Alda to do an ad for you in 73, 74?
Alan Alda lived in Leonia at the time. He may still have his house in Leonia, I don't know. But I wasn't involved at that point because I wasn't doing advertising at that point. But I think what happened was that the ad manager found out that he was living in Leonia, got hold of him, and said, what would he want to do a poster? And what he wanted was a yellow TR6. And he used to bring it into to our service shop for service. Yeah.
You discussed the IRS debate between the factory and the American dealers.
Well, it was all in the Northeast. Genzer Foreman Triumph Distributors were a couple of guys who'd been Plymouth dealers, and all they knew were dollars. And when they saw that a TR4A was going to go up yet another couple $100 in price, they said, we have to have a low price TR. So they got the non-IRS TR4, or TR4A. So that was strictly it. The rest of the country didn't really care. And you know, the straight axle option didn't last very long. I will say this though, that if you looked under the Group 44 car that year, you wouldn't have seen an IRS, because it was sure a lot easier to race prep a straight axle. And the IRS, let's face it, it's a little more comfortable to ride in, but it doesn't handle any better. Worse, if anything. It's like a Spitfire. They built a Spitfire with a straight axle rear. Handled a lot better than a regular Spitfire. Yeah?
Just a quick question. Were there ever vehicles that came in for personal use right at Leonia there that were not to be sold in the United States, that might have been brought in for trial or whatever, that over time leaked out? You know anything about those? I mean,
there were. Well, let me think about that. We tested but never sold a stick shift XJS, which went back to the UK. We brought over you know, oddball things like a Triumph Dolomite, a little 1800. but they were tested and evaluated and sent back. One or two cars, I can't say. I can't say, because if I remember something, I don't remember it well enough. There were some cars, like when I was working first on Broadway, company president Alan Bethel was a company man through and through, and he wasn't going to drive any domestic American car for his family car. So he had a Vanguard Sportsman sedan, four-door sedan, left-hand drive one. Later on, he had a Vanguard luxury six wagon. But cars like that generally went back. The only one I can think of that did stay here, the one we built as part of the Herald launch, we had the Herald coupe that we would, the curtains on the stage would open and there'd be the chassis with engine and driveline in it and the rest of the car in pieces around the stage, and we put it together. Well, that coupe, after we were finished building it over here, it was a US spec car. And they sold it to Genzer Foreman, who welded it together and used it for a field car. And I can imagine what that was like in a rainstorm. How am I doing, Bob?
Any other questions? Or?
One more.
The Dolomite Sprint, why did that not take off? I mean, it seemed like it was a decent car by the time they'd shaken it out.
It's more than decent. It's a hell of a nice little car. But I think probably it was price, and I wasn't in on the discussions. It may have been price, and it may have been volume, because they, you know, if we'd wanted to sell that car, we would have needed 10 or 15,000 units. I doubt that they could have built them. They wouldn't have been able to produce that many engines or that many bodies. They were building too many things on the same production line. So I've driven Dolomite a couple of times. Wow, you know, goodbye BMW. It's a neat little car. Well, thank you all very much.